Hi, I'm Star.
And I'm hungry.
And that's Emily, and we're outside the historic
and awesome
Carnivore Cafe, a wonderful place to eat at the Toledo Zoo.
I know. Yum.
But there's a whole lot more to learn about at the Carnivore Cafe.
And some super animals to learn about too.
So join us in the Carnivore Cafe.
What's a carnivore?
And we'll have fun on Zoo Today. Gosh, it is so beautiful in here, Emily.
And delicious.
The architecture is just amazing.
These fries are amazing.
Do you know this place was built over 60 years ago? And at the time of its dedication, it was Christmas in 1927, and it was dedicated by President Roosevelt's son, Kermit. And at the time of its dedication, it was considered one of the most innovative zoo animal facilities of its kind.
I consider it to be the most innovative lunch facility of its kind.
Well, we're going to the corner of the birdhouse today where we're going to meet Janet, and she's going to show us the hyacinth macaw today. Now, Janet, this is the largest of the parrot family?
Correct. This is the largest of all parrots, yes.
Okay.
They're about 4 feet in length with a wingspan of about 4 feet also, and they weigh about 3.5 pounds.
3.5 pounds. But now, an interesting fact that you were telling me is that their beak is so strong that it can take how much pressure?
About 2,000 pounds of pressure, I have heard.
2,000 pounds for a 3-pound bird. That
Yes.
is amazing. Can you tell a little bit about why around their face that they are featherless?
Well, a characteristic of all macaws is that they have bare patches of skin on their face. Even though theirs is only a little ring around the eye and around the bill area, they still have a bare patch. Now his is a little bit more bare because birds show affection, especially parrots show affection by grooming each other around their face. And she's a little bit over affectionate. She grooms him a little bit more than she should.
Now, they are absolutely beautiful birds. Is that pretty standard
in the macaws?
Right.
Yes, they're usually brightly colored and beautiful and noisy.
What part of the world do they come from?
These are from Brazil, and they come from dry, open areas mainly.
And are they pretty common in zoos?
There are more than in captivity than there are in the wild. There's only about 2,000 to 2,500 left in the wild.
Wow.
So there's a lot more in captivity right now.
And interesting, you said that she, the female, does she have a name?
Her name is Blue, and his name is Barry.
Oh, okay. That she is one of the oldest animals here at the zoo?
Right. She's been here for 34 years, and he's been here for only about 7. Now, both of them are wild caught, so they could be a lot older than that, and they probably are. They live about 75 or more years, so 34 is not very old for her.
So she's only halfway through her lifespan,
Right.
basically.
Correct.
Okay. Now, I noticed that we have the door wide open. Are you afraid that they may fly out here
They
at all?
never fly out here, and a big reason I think is because they feel comfortable in there. That's their home, and so they're comfortable in there. They stay right in there. If they came out here, they'd be really nervous, and they'd get all flustered and probably didn't know what to do. So they stay in the area that they know.
What do you have there in your hand?
I have some Brazil nuts. These are a treat for them that we give, and maybe I can get him to take one from my hand.
Okay.
And then you can see how he cracks them with his bill. I don't know if she'll take one or not. I think she's a little bit nervous, and he's trying to protect her. He's like, get away from her.
So their claws actually play a big part in their feeding also.
Correct, and their bills are hinged on the top and the bottom. That gives them a big range of movement. So they use their bill kind of like a hand. They use it to climb and to use to eat their food with, and then their tongue is kind of like a finger. They use that to feel with a lot of times.
Okay. And most birds, the bottom beak is the only one that really
Correct,
moves.
yeah.
Okay. Have these two had offspring here at the zoo?
Yes, last year we had a chick that we hand raised, Duncan. If you remember, he was on the cover of the Safari magazine.
Okay.
They generally only lay 2 eggs, and in the wild they'll only raise 1 chick. If 2 hatch, then they'll just not feed the other one until it dies, or they'll kick the egg out before it does hatch. So they only raise 1 chick in the wild.
So, and is Duncan still here at the zoo?
No, he went off to another zoo.
Do you work with the birds on the enrichment program like the other keepers do? As far as training them and giving them treats for doing, for coming to you, or do you do that with the birds?
Not these guys. We don't usually interact too much with these guys because usually when they form a pair bond and they're going to breed, then they're not very friendly towards people, and we kind of want them to be more interested in each other instead of us. They're nervous and they're trying to scare us. You can see how they have their feathers kind of puffed up. They're trying to scare us.
These bars used to hold tigers, leopards, and other meat eaters, but that was many years ago.
Cheeseburgers!
And now they hold another kind of meat eater. Places like the Toledo Zoo are taking animals out of these old cages and putting them in new, fun, and natural exhibits.
So the animals have a lot of room to run and play.
Yeah, like the African savanna.
And even the reptile house.
Yeah. Are you going to eat all those?
Okay, here we have the bare essentials, the cart. The cart contains all the equipment that we need to clean each individual cage. We have the various hooks because we're dealing with quite a few venomous animals. I call them venomous, some people call them poisonous. Something's poisonous if you eat it. Reptiles are venomous, they bite you. Just to show you that when we do open these doors, every door has a padlock. Now the last thing I want to happen is for a rattlesnake to end up on the floor. If it does end up on the floor, fortunately it can't go anywhere. We have the gully, the drains have extra mesh in, so there's no way it can go down the drain. This building is totally secure in the event of an animal escape. And I can see that both of the snakes are sat at the front. Now these are quite feisty, to say the least. They normally have a strike at you, and this is where you have to, there was one strike. You have to know your animals and know that they're not going to strike out of the door. They're not going to keep coming, we hope. I never have been bitten by a venomous snake, nor do I want to be. What I need to do here is top the water up. Now, as the snakes are both sat there, I'm not actually going to reach into the cage. That's a big no-no. We don't do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the snake hook by placing the hose on the snake hook over the water bowl and fill it. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Now, even though I didn't touch the snake with the snake hook went in the cage and I did touch the plant. So, just to make sure, the snake hook goes in the disinfectant. Okay, I double check that it's locked. And what I'm actually going to do is actually physically remove, using the snake hook, this cobra. The thing you must not do when hooking a snake is lift the hook up in the air, because the snake will slide down and there's a chance you'll get bitten. It's quite happy. It's just a defensive posture, that's all it is. It's quite happy just to sit there. He'd rather stay in the warmth of his cage. But I'm bringing him out. We're going to put him in the bin. And we don't put our hands anywhere near, so we use a bungee strap across the top, a brick on each side, and just in case I get pulled away, so we place that on top of the bin, and now we know what's in there. This job also keeps you quite fit and agile because you have to climb in and out. And we'll just pick up the small fecal matter. The windows do tend to get dirtier, obviously, on the public side, due to the fact that there seems to be this strange human fascination with touching the glass or banging on the glass. I would ask that if you do come to our reptile house, or any reptile house that you may visit, please don't knock on the glass. It does distress the animals and makes the keeper's job a lot harder. These are Gila monsters. These are one of the only 2 venomous lizards in the world. For some unknown reason, some very, very strange reason, in fact it's quite spooky really, you give them fresh water and normally one of the first things they do is they climb in it and defecate. Unfortunately, when I arrived, I seem to have inherited everything that could kill you. Perhaps they're trying to tell me something. Perhaps not. Now, although these can't kill you, These are constrictors. They are of the boa family. These are the Jamaican boas, and they do strike. When I say strike, they will actually lunge forward, mouth open, and try and bite. Every time, guaranteed. Right, well, they've made a mess in the pool. This is just urates. It's not fecal matter. This is also the waste deposits that they do. Trying not to splash the window, making extra work for myself. So we get the hand scrubber and just give it a quick scrub. So, these are Bismarck's boas, and these are bad-tempered, to say the least. They certainly have an attitude problem. In fact, they seem to have one sole purpose in life, and that's to bite you. Good to go. She's not having a piece of me. They normally defecate in the water or close to it. Now, she won't actually throw herself completely out of the cage, or at least I hope not, but as you can see, she's quite happy just to try and have a go and bite me. And I know I'm well out of the range. I have a large hook to protect myself. But she looks fit and healthy. She's got nice body weight. What we do is we give them a nice liberal spraying down, spray it up into the air. Natural air in the cage circulates the fine mist, having attached the mist nozzle to the end of the hose. Now, unlike the cobra, these tend to go rigid. They're quite large snakes. Place them in to the bin. And here we have the second one. Nice audible. Bill, Andy, I'm about to test the snakebite alarm. This is a test. Hopefully not too loud.
The ostrich is the largest living bird, but I'll bet you didn't know that the ostrich has only 2 toes.
That makes for a short game of this little piggy.
Its 7-inch long toes have thick nails that become dangerous weapons when the bird is cornered. And though it's a bird, it cannot fly. It uses its speed to escape from predators.
And it sure can run. An ostrich can cover 15 feet in one step and run at speeds up to 35 miles an hour. Its speed and good eyesight helps the ostrich escape from its enemies, which are mainly lions and humans.
The ostrich stands nearly 8 feet tall and weighs over 300 pounds.
A 300-pound bird?
The ostrich eats plants, lizards, and even turtles. It also eats sand and rocks to aid its digestion.
The male ostrich uses his 2 toes to dig a huge nest in the sand.
And get this, at night, the male ostrich sits on the eggs to keep them warm.
What a guy. You may have heard something.
But I'll bet you didn't know. These murals are mysterious.
These murals are exotic. These murals are so real.
These murals are so green.
These murals are so scary.
These murals are funny. These murals are the work of some very talented local artists.
And these murals go great with ice cream.
Ted, it's only October. How can you already be in the holiday spirit?
Well, to do the lights before Christmas, we start 8 weeks to put up the show. So we're already into the middle of October, and we're putting up 500,000 lights this year.
And it takes 8 weeks. How many people work during the 8-week time?
10 people, and those are full-time seasonals. And we have 2 crews. We have a crew that comes in the morning and does the average day-to-day work, and then we have a night crew that comes in from noon until 9 o'clock at night, and they do all the setup. And it takes about 2,700 hours.
And you put the lights up on the trees as well as other landscaping in the zoo?
Yeah, we break it down into groups. We have a crew that does all the boom work, that's all the large trees, and they concentrate strictly on doing the large trees because they're used to running the equipment. And then we have another crew, about 4 people, that go around and do all the groundwork, all the small trees and shrubs.
So 500,000 lights, what tree has the most lights on it?
That would be the Norway spruce in front of the conservatory that has over 7,000 lights on it.
So it looks like a humongous Christmas tree then.
It is a giant Christmas tree.
This is really unique how you wrap these. Who came up with this idea?
Well, this idea came up out of necessity because we didn't want to drape the lights and we wanted to do a little bit more dramatic look. So we decided to wrap the branches, and no other zoos had done that. And it just seemed like the right thing to do, and then we got a whole different look out of it. So we decided to wrap the branches. It takes a little bit more time to wrap them. I mean, this tree right here has 13 sets of lights on it. And for someone who's experienced putting lights up, it probably takes them about a half hour to 40 minutes to do 13 sets on a tree this size.
Probably the most asked question is, how can you tell when a light bulb is out and how do you change it?
Well, most of the strands that we have that if the bulb is completely removed from the set, then the whole set goes out. But if the individual bulb burns out, the rest of the set stays lit. So usually we repair all those when we bring them in after the show is done. And then anything that goes out during the show, we just maintain it.
How many animal images are we having this year?
Well, we have a total of 80 animal images, and they're probably the most popular. And most of the animal images tend to fade in and out, and that gives them a little bit more movement and excitement in the show.
Who actually creates the animal images? Because they look so real.
Yeah, they are made in-house by our own staff, and it's made out of aluminum clothesline wire, which we use the silhouette of a, almost considered like a child's coloring book, and we follow that image to actual size. So if we're doing an elephant, then we do an actual size of an elephant. So most of the images that you'll see that are lighted are pretty much, the majority of them are actual size images. And then after we bend the aluminum wire, we brace it up with bamboo, tape them, wrap the lights on along the aluminum clothesline wire, and it forms the image of what we want.
Now what is this?
These are all of our adapters we use for our setup. Yep, you're probably looking at over 20 miles of extension cords that we use to set up the Lights Before Christmas show. Ever famous rope lighting that we use. That's pretty popular that the kids like that we use.
And then what do we have up here?
Those are all of our containers that house the replacement bulbs that we need to keep the show running. This is everything that we use in the light show, and each box contains about 100 sets of Christmas lights in it.
And this is how you store them for year to year?
That's how we used to store them from year to year, but now we store them like this. We just wrap them in a wad, and we can get more in a box this way than we could this way.
So not just putting them up is a lot of work, but it's storing them year after year.
That's right.
So that when you get them up for next year, they're all organized.
They're ready to go.
So these are some of the animal images
Yep.
that you actually create. Obviously, this is a pink flamingo.
Flamingo, that needs a little bit of work. We have a set of lights out right here, right around his neck.
And so you bring all 80-some images into the conference room at the greenhouse to repair them, such as things like this.
That's right, one by one.
So this is actually the wire that you create the animal images with.
This is the material that we use to form the animal images, and it's pretty flexible, and it can bend to any shape.
Now, this is the 9th year for the Lights Before Christmas,
Yes, we started in 1986.
and you've been here since day one.
Since day one, I did my
What the-
first light show here.
Well, how many lights did we have in our very first show?
First show, we did 70,000 Christmas lights.
Wow, so we've grown quite a bit then.
Yeah, we're up to 500,000.
The hippopotamus is the third largest land animal and can reach weights of 5,800 pounds.
Whoa!
The word hippopotamus comes from the Greek language meaning river horse.
But the hippo is more closely related to the hog than the horse. These massive creatures live close to rivers and spend most of their lives in water.
During the day, the hippo spends most of its time resting, and at night will graze along the riverbank for food. In the wild, a hippo eats fruit, grass, leaves, and vegetables.
But just how much does a hippo eat?
Well, it eats a lot. A hippo can eat about 130 pounds of vegetation a day.
Now that's really packing it away.
Here at the zoo, hippos eat hay, fruits, vegetables, and a herbivore pellet diet.
Herbivore?
Yeah, that means plant eaters.
Like hippos.
You got it. Hey, Emily, what are you doing in there?
I'm carnivoring.
Again?
Yeah, I'm pretending to be a hungry and wild, ravenous carnivore. Long claws, long, hairy fangs, and
What's the matter, Emily?
Oh, I'm stuffed. I think I better lie down and Karna snore.
Emily's Karna snoring.
We're in the aquarium building, standing in front of the alligator snapping turtle with Angie Moore, one of the aquarium keepers here. Angie, what is it that this turtle's doing?
Well, the turtle right now is trying to lure the fish into his mouth with a pink tongue that looks like a worm.
Oh, it sure does look like a worm. Does he ever catch any of the fish in this tank?
Well, occasionally he catches a few, but this really isn't the type of fish that he uses the lure to catch. These fish aren't used to eating that kind of worm in the wild. If we put a different kind of fish in there, such as a bass or a bluegill, then he would catch them much quicker, because they're used to eating the worms in the wild.
Angie, this turtle's been underwater for quite some time. How long do you think it can hold its breath?
Well, these turtles can hold their breath for over 24 hours. They have special blood vessels in their mouth and in their tail that are very close to the surface, and it allows them to take the oxygen right out of the water, so they don't have to breathe as often as other turtles.
But he does have to go to the surface to breathe sometimes?
Yes, he goes to the surface every couple of hours in our tank to breathe.
The alligator snapping turtle hasn't really moved much here in the last 10 minutes or so. Do visitors at the zoo ever worry that the animal might be sick or dead?
Yeah, we get a lot of people asking if the turtle is all right. He usually stays very, very still to try to catch the fish. If he moves at all, his cover would be blown, so he can stay extremely still for a long period of time. And his mouth is supposed to look like a cave, and inside the mouth he's got the little tongue that moves just a little bit to look like a worm. We like to give him a variety here in the aquarium. He eats twice a week, and we usually give him squid, herring, smelt, and shrimp.
Angie, that mouth on that turtle looks pretty dangerous. Do they have the ability to hurt humans?
Well, they usually don't attack humans in the wild when they're underwater, but if you try to pick one up, then they might bite you, and they do have a very nasty bite.
Angie, I noticed that this exhibit doesn't have any room for the turtle to crawl out of the water. I've seen other turtles sitting on logs out in the sunshine and stuff. Why doesn't this exhibit have a place for the turtle to get out of the water?
Well, the alligator snapping turtle hardly ever leaves the water. The only time they leave the water is when the female goes ashore to lay her eggs. Since they spend so much time underwater, sometimes they get algae that grows on the back of their shell that really helps to camouflage them.
This is a Burmese tortoise, a female Burmese tortoise. This is the smallest of the giant tortoise species. She weighs about 60 pounds right now.
Really, I was gonna say, I saw you heaving her out of the box yourself, so.
She's a big girl.
Now, is she a snapping turtle?
Well, this is a tortoise. There are some substantial differences between turtles and tortoises. They're all in the same group of animals, but tortoises are primarily land dwellers. They're not water animals. If she thought I were feeding her something, that she might try to bite me, or if I frightened her so badly that she was really defensive, she might try. But as you can see, she's not trying to bite me now, and we've just done all kinds of things to her, so this is a pretty friendly animal. She's got these great big heavy feet. They look like elephant legs. Great big stumpy legs, and these are nails. They do have to be trimmed if they're not wearing off by themselves.
Now, her shell is pretty hard. Is that what her skin is like? Do you call this skin?
These are scales, and all reptiles have scales. She's covered with scales. This is one of the most primitive tortoises in the world, and she's built like a tank. She has this big hard shell. Tortoises have used the strategy of armor rather than being fast and running away from their enemies. And so, as you can see by looking at her, she's covered with armor, and if she decided to pull inside of her shell, which she can do, her head can go back and her legs can fold in, and it would be awfully hard for any kind of an enemy to break in there. So once they're this large, I think man is probably about their only real enemy. They live a long time. This animal could probably live to be 80 or 100 years old. We're guessing her to be probably between 30 and 50 years old. Now underneath, we have a flat part of the shell that we call the plastron. When she decides to go in a certain direction, she just goes, and if something's in front of her, instead of going around it, she just barges right through it. She can do that.
Here's this week's Cool Critter question from Bradley Mathias of Toledo.
Bradley writes, Dear Zoo Today, Why do snakes shed their skin?
Well, here's your answer.
A snake sheds its skin because it's growing. All snakes continue to grow from day one. They shed the skin on a regular basis when they're small, but as they get bigger, that process slows down. If you look behind me, the large king cobra has shed a very, very long skin. This may shed 4 times a year. In my hand, I have a small rat snake skin. You can actually see the eyes where the head has ripped the skin and the snake has crawled all the way out of it.
Remember, kids, send us a letter with your question and address it to Zoo Today, Cool Critter Questions, P.O. Box 4010, Toledo, Ohio 43609.
We'll choose one question each week and have it answered by an authority here at the zoo.
So send us your questions today.
Yeah, drop us a lion. Boy, am I stuffed. But that was delicious.
Well, I'm glad you're finally done. Now we have to go see Sharon and find out what some of the animals eat.
Eat? Oh no.
Well, maybe we'll see the lion eating his canine meat diet, or a bird of prey nibbling on a mouse.
Oh, Star, don't mention food, please.
Or maybe a sea lion swallowing whole fish. I love that.
I need Pepto-Bismol.
Remember when the pythons unhinged their jaws and ate all those rats?
Alka-Seltzer, Alka-Seltzer.
What about the polar bears when they got those fish and tore their heads
Oh, it's a
off and they
Maylocks
were
moment.
eating them, and the birds got those crickets and they were eating
Tums to
them.
tum-tums.